So I'm going to show you how to sew together hexagons using your machine as opposed to doing it by hand. So to start off with, you need a little template, hexagon template, kind of like that. Mine is 3 inches across. I made it on the computer and then cut it out. But wherever you get your hexagon template, it's probably a little easier to start with something bigger as opposed to the really tiny 1-inch ones that you would do with hand piecing. But if you want to do that, by all means. So cut out a bunch of fabric hexagons like this. I like to have 2 edges of them going with the grain of the fabric. The other ones obviously will be on the bias, but it's nice to at least have 2 edges that are with the grain. So the first thing you want to do is lay out your hexagons the way you want them, and then take them row by row and sew them together end to end. And you don't have to do this, but I like to start with those sides that are with the grain, and then all of these are the bias edges. So you can see the back. I've sewn them together and then pressed them open. The one thing that you want to make sure of, and this is really important, this is the whole trick, is you have to leave a 1/4 inch gap at the beginning and end of each seam. You can see how I didn't sew all the way to the edge. Here's a look at the inside. You want to leave that amount on either side so that you'll be able to set in that other piece. If you don't do that, it's okay. You can go back and snip those stitches, but you need to have that 1/4 inch gap at either end of all of your seams. So once we have our rows sewed together, next we're going to sew 2 rows together like that. We're going to start at one end, and I'm just going to do one piece at a time. It's not going to be a continuous seam like it would be if it was a straight seam. So the first one we're going to sew is this right here, starting on the left side. So to wrap your brain around how you're sewing things together, it's a good idea to lay it out like this, and then just fold over, flip that top piece over so that these edges stay together. So I'm going to fold it, or not fold, flip it over like that. And then I've got my pieces lined up. And starting on this side, you can, because these are all raw edges here, you can just line that up perfectly just like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew a seam starting a 1/4 inch in, just like you did with the other seams, and stopping a 1/4 inch before the edge of this piece, but a 1/4 inch before there is going to be right at this seam and the piece below. So just like before, leaving a 1/4 inch on either end, you sew that together, you'll end up with something like this. Get that out of the way. So here, I've already sewn these together. You can see I've got that 1/4 inch at the beginning and end, and when I flip it open, I've got those 2 sewn together like that. So now, the next step to sew this next seam, if I lay it out for you, the next one, we're just going to go down the line and we'll sew this next one together. So the trick here is we want to get these 2 edges together. So these 2 edges right here, yellow to green. So what you're basically going to do is kind of fold that purple hexagon in half, and that'll allow this guy, because we left those gaps, to kind of just pop up, and then we can line that up. So we're just going to sew those 2 together, starting at the edge there on the left, yellow to green, and then we're going to stop a 1/4 inch before the edge of that yellow, but we know where that is. It's really easy to see. It's where this green, where the green fabric is already folded over. So we're just going to sew from here to here. So I'm going to do that really fast. So I just sewed that last seam, the green to the yellow, and one thing I didn't mention before is that I like to reinforce the beginning and the end of each seam by backstitching, just because you're going to be kind of tugging a little bit as you're folding things around. So I like to reinforce it just to make sure things don't pull apart. But so you can see I sewed that there at the seam, stopped before that last 1/4 inch of the yellow piece, and when we open it up, I've got a nice smooth little corner there. And if I press it, which I will do right now, so I just press that seam open. Here you go. Let's see, it gets a little confusing. I just press that open, and look at that, nice and smooth. I don't know about you, I have never sewn a hexagon by hand that was this nice and smooth, and where the corners matched up so perfectly. So you do not have to press as you go. You can wait till you finish sewing the entire row together before you press. So from here you would just do the same thing, where we're going to sew together yellow to the purple. So now it's the green's turn to fold in half. Green hexagon folds in half, and we match up the purple and the yellow seams. And we just sew those together, like so. And here are 2 rows that I've already sewed together, nice and smooth and flat and pretty. So that's it. I hope that helps, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye-bye.